Hi, I'm Bibi the Link Builder, and this is SEO in 2023.
Bibi, what's your number one SEO tip for 2023?
So here goes. This is a little bit of a boring tip because it's sort of going back to basics. But my tip is for not letting the state of your site determine your forever link building tactic. So this applies to all companies, but especially to the ones that sell physical products in the real world. So I've seen a lot of leads coming in from retail chains who have been investing in SEO, but not that much in a really solid link building strategy. So right now, because of all the lockdown stuff that happened and maybe other things coming up again, they want their e-commerce component to become a resilient stream of income. So some are just starting with link building. And when you decide to start, it's good to just have focus and first do one link building tactic at a time until you get it right. But sometimes I see that companies, they really get stuck on one type. So it could be PR stunts or haro or guest posts or press releases, and they let the state of their site dictate what that link building tactic is. So maybe you don't have enough content, or your site looks really commercial or just not authentic, right? And then you think, okay, so my link building tactics are very limited. But I think that while you're working on SEO copy and sales-oriented copy, you should definitely start experimenting with linkable assets right away. Now, one of the misunderstandings about linkable assets is that a lot of companies think they need to be epic, right? And epic definitely has a place. So for instance, beautiful graphics or really controversial topics or anything like that. But you can start very low level, low effort. For instance, you can do stats pieces or foundational pieces, things that tell you about a definition of a certain thing. And those pieces are very easy to build links to because they're not commercial, and but they can also bomb. So you have to start experimenting with that right away. So while you're dipping into link building, keep reverse engineering what's working really well in terms of picking up links, and start basically producing similar pieces or something else inspired by those pieces.
Now let's break down what you said initially just a little bit more. What do you mean by the state of your site? Are you talking about poor state of your content, poor technology stack, something else?
Yeah, so for instance, I see a lot of, especially with retail chains, right? So they have a really big e-commerce part that needs fixing as well. So they're very focused on that, and that's great. But their blog is still very hidden, and it's very minimal in terms of a layout, and it's dictated by sometimes by the e-commerce platform that they're using, like for instance Magento or something like that, right? So and in the beginning that's fine because you can always build links to a site, but you have to start improving that, I think, right away. So in the future, you are able to create more assets that are easier to build links to and pick up passive links. A lot of retail chains are also beaten in their own game by affiliate sites, by their own affiliate partners, right? So yeah, don't just don't be complacent and rely on one link building tactic, because it works for now and it's great. But then at some point it doesn't. Then you're so much behind in terms of content.
Why are big brands beaten by their affiliates? Is that just because they do such a terrible job at telling Google who the true entity is? Do they do a bad job with link building? Is it just a combination of different things?
I think it's a combination, but the entity thing is really interesting as well. I'm not like an expert on entity SEO, but I do feel like a lot of bigger companies, they skip the really basic stuff. So if you have a product with specific ingredients in it, maybe you can build out a cluster focusing completely on that ingredient. But instead, they really want to sell hard, so they start focusing on the product itself with their content. And yeah, I think they missed the boat. And I think affiliate sites, they really look for the low-hanging fruit, right? So for long tails or anything like that, and then they completely dominate those topics, and then start sucking up everything around it that's related to it.
Yeah, I like what you're saying also about the not letting the state of your site affect your link building strategy, because sometimes it can take a lot longer than you initially think to get your site sorted, to perhaps reposition where a blog is, perhaps change the technology on your site or add new content to your site. And if you're waiting until all of that's done before you start building links, then you're missing out on an opportunity and demonstrating that long-term historical link generation to your domain name. But you also say that e-commerce sites are doing a lot of things better with SEO nowadays. So what kind of things are e-commerce sites doing better nowadays than you used to?
I think what they're doing better is that they do really target keywords that are top of funnel. So I think that they're targeting those more. And a lot of them are cleaning up their sites in terms of content structure and also internal linking. So I see that happening as well. So I think they're doing better on that.
Okay. And what about the opposite train of thought? What are SEO mistakes that e-commerce sites are still making that they've made in the past and they haven't rectified yet?
In terms of SEO, I can only say something about content and link building. I think they're still focusing on the big dog sites. They say, oh, I want a link from Forbes and I want a link from this. And they're losing sight of relevancy. So getting links from real, authentic, smaller authority sites on specific topics can really help.
So let's zero in on your core competency, on link building and content generation. What changes have you seen recently? Are there any tactics that are working more effectively now as opposed to a couple of years ago?
Yeah, that's actually funny because I have this personal style of link building. I use other styles as well, but a lot of it is based on humor. So using puns and jokes. So I'm just talking about outreach, right? And I now see that everybody's doing that. I actually wasn't the first one. I was inspired by John Buchan. So he's from Charm Offensive and he used a lot of jokes in his templates. So I see that everybody's just copying that style. I even have seen my own templates coming back. So again, I think you shouldn't become complacent and rely too much on one style of doing things.
Okay, so personal outreach, a little bit of humor, stop just copying everyone else. What about the types of links that are more impactful nowadays? Have they changed at all?
I find it really hard to identify because on the one hand, for my clients, I end up building a variety of backlinks and I can't really pinpoint which one is working well or not. I do a lot of guest posts, so I feel like that's still working well. But when I research competitors, I just see the most shittiest links working. So I'm confused a lot of the times, to be honest.
If you do guest posts, do you want to incorporate a link within the body text, or do links in author bio still work okay?
So I've never tested author bio links. I know that my clients, they don't like it. So I don't do those. I usually aim for the in-content links. Because there's a whole context around it and I feel like people are more inclined to click on it, you know. But I wouldn't turn down author bio link from a really great site. So I wouldn't have a problem with it.
And talking about the context, did you also try and add links to other entities in the industry to demonstrate to Google where the website you're talking about actually fits and where their peers are?
You mean like second tier links or something, or
just linking to other associated websites in the industry to demonstrate where the website that you want to build a link to sits within?
Yeah, external links. Yeah, absolutely. So on the client side, but also in guest posts or something, I always link out to sites that make sense, but not to competitors.
Absolutely. And you mentioned second tier links there. Is that an active strategy that you're using as well?
No, I'm too dumb for that. I can't. I'm not a chess master. I can't think more than 2 steps ahead. So second tier is already breaking my brain. But I'm pretty sure it works. So
yeah. So don't try and get too clever. You can just simply build links to your sites and build links from relevant, authoritative websites, and that will work.
Yeah, I think you need to start with link building that fits your personality, and that's something that and your lifestyle as well. So I was watching an episode from Authority Hackers, and I think it was Gail or Mark, and they said that whatever kind of site you build for yourself or whatever kind of link building you do, you have to think about how does it affect me, you know? So for instance, if you're very risk averse and you don't like looking over your shoulder, maybe you shouldn't be doing black hat tactics because you have to, you know, be ahead of the game, see what everyone else is doing, seeing if you're going to get hit and stuff like that. So I'm not against all those tactics. I just think it doesn't fit my personality. And my brain.
If you've published a great piece of original content, can you not use links as some kind of launch strategy where you try and build links maybe for the first month or so while the piece of content has just become available, and then just leave it after that to organically obtain links? Or
yes,
ideally, should you also... Yes, okay, you can be doing that. That's a reasonable strategy. It's okay to stop, yeah.
Yeah, and that's also where I think a mix of link building tactics work. So a lot of people, they might be building linkable assets where they think, oh, it's going to attract all the passive links in the world, right? But it doesn't, because their domain isn't strong enough yet, or it doesn't rank for relevant keywords. So you boost that piece of content with a couple of build links, and then it gets picked up, and then it starts, getting passive links.
Okay, but the content's got to be exceptional for that to work.
No.
No.
No, that was my whole point of the tip also. Well, one of the points was that it doesn't need to be exceptional. Just reverse engineer. One of the things that I do, for instance, is that I use Ahrefs and then I look at the Content Explorer, and everybody should be using something like a Content Explorer or BuzzSumo. And instead of using a topic that's relevant to the client, I use a word that indicates the type of content. So, for instance, how many, you know, or why, or the worst, or the best, or stats, or something like that. And then I filter on the amount of referring domains, or the amount of page traffics, or the amount of social shares. And then you can start seeing what kind of pieces worked really well, and how can I apply that to my own niche, or is it already in my niche, and can I beat that, you know? And those are sometimes very boring things, you know. I got a link from US Weekly or US Magazine, and it was around the engagement ring of Jennifer Lopez. And I have a client where I did a lot of content ideation for. So we did some foundational pieces around gemstones. And one of those gemstones was mentioned in that article. And they quoted the client, you know. And it wasn't even a groundbreaking article. It was just kind of Wikipedia-ish article about a specific gemstone.
Okay, so it needs to be hyper relevant and hopefully involving people who are authorities in the industry as well, but not necessarily the best piece of content ever. And also just in relation to how you go about building links, just one final question on that.
Yeah.
Do you look into competitors and see what links they've generated and try and replicate the same links?
Yeah, so competitor backlink strategies, I definitely do those as well, because it gives me inspiration, you know, for the angles, and also to try and steal those things. I do find it really hard because everybody's picking up so many links these days, you know, spammy backlinks. So I have a hard time wading through it and seeing kind of like a line, you know, what kind of strategy they were using. So I'm not super proficient at that, at competitor backlink campaigns, but I always include them.
So you've shared what SEOs should be doing in 2023, but now let's talk about what SEOs shouldn't be doing. So what's something that's seductive in terms of time, but ultimately counterproductive, something that SEOs shouldn't be doing in 2023?
I did talk about reverse engineering and maybe creating similar copy, or getting inspiration from what's already out there. But that doesn't mean you need to copy everything. And I do see that once somebody publishes a template somewhere, you know, for email or a link building tactic, that everybody copies it exactly. And just stop copying people, because you're wasting a lot of time and money on it, and the tactic will be dead real soon.
Bibi Raven, aka Bibi the Link Builder, is founder of BBBuzz.com. Bibi, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2023.
Yay! Thank you so much, and good luck everyone with links. Get all the links.
Get your copy of SEO in 2023, the book, over at SEOin2023.com.